1 month ago, I asked my audience to send in their own original superheroes or supervillains. Today, along with showing off the stuff that was submitted, I'm going to take 4 of the heroes and fuse them with 4 of the villains and turn them all into anti-heroes, mixing their designs and their lore and powers, and I'm going to present their lore and stories through a goofy conversation between 3 of my own original characters. Good old Benny Sharp, a former shady mech salesman turned superhero, Dr. Champagne McGregor, the team chef of my main team of heroes, and Vasilia Kuznet, an armor crafter from a fantasy universe. By the way, at the time you're watching this, I have put out a poll to vote on what the next topic will be for next month's PopCross Community Redraw, so if you want to have a say in what that's going to be, you can click the link that I'm sure I put somewhere. Anyway, on with the show, let's go! Hit like, if you want, subscribe, if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. So then I thought it'd be funny to convince him to use the dumbest name I could think of, so I told him to call it iSnack 2.0. I thought I'd have to convince him, but the whole board of directors just bought it, hook, line, and sinker. So they called it that. They was the laughing stock of the whole Outback because of me. Well, first, the Outback is just a specific part of Australia, and I think you mean they was the laughing stock of the whole country. But second, that's real funny to know that whole Vegemite debacle was your fault in your universe. Still, that story doesn't excuse how insanely long this car ride is to the theme park. It feels like we've been in here for weeks. I too am growing bored. I am also regretting choice of outfit. I think I want to change before we arrive. If we ever arrive. This ain't so bad, we'll get there. Plus I can just regale you with more tales to distract from boredom. Did I ever tell you about the anti-hero purge that happened about a decade back in a city in my universe? No. But that does sound intriguing enough to distract me a bit longer. Was this like the movie The Purge, but with superpowered folks? Not exactly. See, there was this city called Sarandon Capital. For nearly a decade, it had the unique problem of being overrun with anti-heroes. Sure, there was vigilantes protecting folks, but most of them could be bought off to do more shady stuff too. They was real loose with public safety when they was fighting villains, and it was just an overall dangerous place to be. Then this new police commissioner, Xantos, gets promoted, and he used to be top brass at the Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation, but he got the boot for being a little too willing to get nuts. But getting a little nuts was just what Sarandon Capital needed. He made a public announcement that any anti-hero who brought in 3 other anti-heroes in the city with unanswered for crimes, without killing them and doing serious harm to them, would have their own past crimes pardoned completely. Doing this obviously wouldn't take all the anti-heroes down, but could significantly reduce the number of them. And since lots of them had dubious morals, it wasn't like they was going to be too shy about going after each other. I both think that is a profoundly terrible idea on many levels, and I also think it's an absolute baller move. So how'd it go? Oh, it was a mess, but also a mess that kinda worked. One of the most famous stories coming out of it was this gal, Ava Mortis. She had a real rough time growing up, on top of having schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, which she's dealing with in a healthy way now. Her dad was this crazy powerful demon villain who killed her mother in an explosion that also took this gal's legs. Jeez, well, that's a real speedrun of tragic backstory stuff. Yeah, life put her through the ringer for sure. Thankfully, after all that, she was still able to steal this prized artifact from her pops called the Dara Pomada, or Bloodlust Gemstone. It gave the user an unquenchable bloodlust, but also powers fueled by the user's own blood, and any blood they may borrow from other folks. Borrow, huh? Yeah, I was trying to soften it a bit, but really she did end up putting a fair number of innocent folks into hospital taking their blood to use for her powers. But she never killed no civilians. I mean, except accidentally those 3 times, but overall she was a pretty stand-up gal. Sorta. Anyway, with help from her girlfriend, who goes by the name Toast the Raccoon. Excuse me? Yeah, great name, right? Anyway, Mortis got the hang of the gem's powers, letting her make superpowered blood-formed legs so she could walk again, and even an extra set of arms to fight with and change into different weapons and stuff. Then she was actually able to take an old man down. But then she went on to use those powers to just do whatever she wanted, whether superhero type stuff because it seemed right, or taking money to do stuff that was not so right. Eventually, when she got her head screwed on a little tighter morally speaking, she realized she'd done a lot of stuff she wasn't proud of, and was ready to jump all over this clean slate thing that Xantos was offering. She didn't even really want to use the gem anymore anyhow. She'd kinda gotten over it. She wanted to stop living a life fueled by a pretty grim artifact that she'd taken from her crazy demon old man. Just using it sorta made her feel like a villain, regardless of what she was doing with it. But she figured if she just tried to go into hiding now, she could still get caught up for her crimes later down the line if someone found out who she had been. So she decided to track down 3 anti-heroes, and now all she had to do was pick the right 3 to hunt down. Luckily, there was plenty to choose from. The first guy she went after was this sorta mysterious, if a bit goofy goon by the name of Vornsparo. Nobody really knew where he came from, but from a few times folks had gotten him talking, it sounded like he was from another universe. Or at least his soul was. He mentioned he was once part of this team of 13 crazy powerful supervillains, but he died, and now his soul had been inhabiting this insectoid armored shell thing. He uses that with this exoskeletal gun claw arm thing on it to fight crime. But if another hero ticks him off, he ain't above fighting heroes or the cops either. He's killed off more than a few good guys in his time too, so he was well on the radar for this whole anti-hero roundup thing. He was a good first takedown option too, since he'd been doing the whole anti-hero thing for a long time, like before the city was even called Ceridon Capital. Seriously, he's so old that when he was a kid, grandfather clocks was still called little boy clocks. This is good.
Where did you get that can of beans? And why is that what you choose to snack on? You're dating a chef. I got homemade snacks here that's way better than beans.
I know you got great skills, but you know, sometimes you just got to have a can of beans. Like Mom always says, eat your beans to fend off fiends.
Yeah, well, I don't like the implication of how beans might help you fend off anyone when we's all in a confined space together. Vasilia, can you oh my, why is you naked?
Relax, Champagne, I am getting changed. I said I wanted to change outfits.
Yeah, but why is he doing that in the car with us here?
What do you care about, naked woman? You're both gay.
Yeah, but a surprised naked person is still alarming. You could have warned us not to look back there.
Oh please, if I said don't look, it would make you look. Like when someone says not to think about a purple bagushkin. Is then all you can picture, yes?
No, because I have no idea what that is. Alright, I'm over it.
Good, but I am changed now anyway, see? What do you think? Good thing I bring other outfit. Dang, silly, is you the 5th type of flavor the human tongue can taste? Because, ooh, mommy. Thank you, Benjamin. Now, what is this about insect armor man? Right, okay, so Ava Mortis thought she'd make a big splash taking him down first, and boy did she. She was gonna get Toast the Raccoon to help her hunt down the guy, but he just made a public appearance, taking the bus.
He just took public transit? Could he not fly in his bug armor thing, or at least move at superhuman speeds or something?
He could fly, but I don't know, I guess he just got tired or something. Folks was posting memes of him catching the bus, she saw it in time, knew which line he was on, and went down there to confront him. She said she was gonna bring him in, and he was actually pretty on board with having a fight, cause he figured if he won, he could just bring her in. So they start duking it out, causing more public property damage than was probably preferable to Commissioner Xanthos, but eventually Ava was able to get a bunch of blood inside a small crack she'd made in the dude's armor, and with that she could take enough control over his body to stop him from moving around. She held him in place, the feds zipped him up in these super durable body band things, and he was off to Sing Sing.
Why would they send him to a prison in Ossington, New York?
Oh, is that what Sing Sing means? I thought it was just like a catch-all term for prison. I just meant he went to the slammer.
Right, that makes more sense. And you seriously gotta stop it with the beans, only bad can come from this.
Books! This has been an ad for PopCross Studios illustrated novels and coloring books. If you want more profound creativity like what you heard in this ad just now, make sure to subscribe if you ain't done that already. Now back to the video. The next gal our bloody little anti-hero went after was named Nijha Heart.
Oh jeez, is this some person who rips folks' hearts out or something?
No, but that's pretty funny and would have made sense. Nah, see, this gal is technically a clone. See, folks in my world get powers all sorts of different ways, and obviously that includes some folks as just being born with them. One theory about where lots of folks get their powers is by being the descendant of an ancient powerful being, and the powers are just dormant in them somewhere until one of them's born who can awaken them, or an altered version of them or something. Nijha Heart was cloned from a gal who had been a real powerful superhero herself, who claimed to be a direct descendant of the legendary third Prince Lotus Nijha from Chinese folklore. She said her powers came from a massive abundance of chi she had because of being this guy's descendant.
That's funny, I just watched that animated Nijha 2 movie from my world. Marvel and DC both need to take some notes from the absolutely off-the-walls fight scenes in that movie. Not relevant, sorry, go on.
Anyway, they haven't admitted to it, but according to this clone lady, Nijha Heart, when the descendant gal that she's allegedly cloned from died in a heroic blaze of glory, the Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation got a hold of her body and tried using it to make clones of her, with her same power levels, but who would do exactly what the Foundation wanted, so they could stop hunting down new heroes to try and work friendly with them, and instead just impose these clones into troubled areas.
Sounds pretty on brand for any version of the SCP Foundation.
Right? Anyway, this gal Nijha Heart ain't big on talking and doing interviews and whatnot neither, but she has said that she broke out of a Foundation containment just as this big attack happened by one of the Foundation's enemies, killing off all the other clones. She got away because her powers were enhanced even further thanks to an ability granted to her called the Reaper Soul Flame. No relation to our buddy, the Reaper of the Multiverse.
The Reaper is really far too violent title for Ms. Jones. She is not even willing to kill maniac like Tarsa. Unless Sterling has convinced her otherwise?
Nah, he's still working on it though, being a bit too gentle about it if you ask me. But hey, better than having a trigger-happy maniac behind the Reaper powers, right? Anyway, Nijha made friends with some real old but superpowered dude in the alleged SCP Foundation lab she was locked up in. Just like her, he had a power that ran off chi too, and when he died, which he did, he could pass it on to someone else with a lot of chi running through him. He died while she was still there, passed the powers on to her, and with that she got super powered up. She already had elevated speed, strength, durability, and flame powers, but then her flamey flames turned to blue, and she could make way more of them. Her other physical traits enhanced, her arms got all funky and translucent, she got these flamin' wheel things she can fly on, can manifest solid weapons out of the flames, and she got this floaty band that hovers around the head and shoulders.
This band is part of her superhuman abilities?
Yeah, I guess so, I don't know. Anyway, as you can see, she's got a pretty tragic sounding backstory herself if it's all true. Her closest friend died and gave her his powers, all her fellow clones got iced, and she's gotta live knowing she was made to be a goon for a foundation she's got no interest in working for. She found her way to Seridan Capital and was one of the better anti-heroes, you know, still got into some not so good stuff, had a bit of a rap sheet herself, but was generally more upstanding than some of the other anti-heroes. But she would always attack SCP Foundation officers who tried getting into the city to do anything. Which meant Ava Mortis thought she could get extra points from Xanthos, since he'd worked for them, if she brought in Nijha Heart. Unfortunately for Ava, some other fierce and grizzled anti-hero was trying to grab Nijha for his own trio of takedowns, and he was having a real public brawl with her. When Ava got on the scene, she wasn't sure if she should try to help one of them, or help the other, or try and bring them both in at once. The guy trying to take out Nijha was a little out of his element. He mainly had plant-based powers, so Nijha figured with her fire powers she'd have an easy time toasting him. But he was actually putting up more of a fight than she expected. He was this scientist turned anti-hero with the handsome name Gangrene Benji. He and some other folks had been commissioned to try and build a machine that could basically be like a philosopher's stone, turning the molecular structure of anything into anything else.
Yeah, that's a simple enough order. Just make us a machine that does magic.
Yeah, that was a pretty out there idea, but Benji was doing his best, using plants as a base, thinking since photosynthesis converts a light energy into chemical energy, there may be something there to help. Unfortunately, the folks he was working for wasn't big on safety protocols, and the machine ended up going all splody. All Gangrene Benji's co-workers died in the explosion, and he just barely survived, but the molecular structure of his own body was altered in the explosion. He had to build himself a suit that contained the radiation his body gave off, but he also gained the ability to basically create plants and plant-based poisons from thin air. He also figured out how to use some of the pollens he could summon as fuel for jet boots in his suit so he could fly.
So I'm guessing he went on a fun little killing spree of the irresponsible employers who didn't care about him and his co-workers' safety.
12 gold Kugaloos for Champ. Like the others, he did some good stuff with his powers too, but this guy really bordered more on the villain side. There wasn't much of a moral compass left after all the murders he did on the shady business executives. Anyway, so he's scrapping with Nijha and Ava gets on the scene. At first, she sees an in to attack Nijha and takes it, but then starts taking swipes at both folks and it becomes a three-way brawl. Then, as the fight goes on, she sees that Benji is a lot more violent and vicious and is going for some real low blows. Plus, when they start to banter a bit, Nijha starts saying that she refuses to get handed over to Commissioner Xantos, saying she'd rather die than be locked up by an SCP goon again, even if he ain't working for him no more, technically. A line that stuck with Ava was when Nijha said, "I won't let the pain from my past come back to ruin my present and future." Gangrene Benji ain't hearing it though, he just wants to take it down no matter what, and he starts getting his vines bound around the neck and strangling her faster than she could burn his planty boys away. But that's when Nijha's words really sink into Ava. Ava and Nijha didn't have similar pasts exactly, but they was both pretty painful pasts. And like Nijha, Ava was trying to leave hers behind too. She realized lots of anti-heroes in the city might have been turned to this life because of messed up pasts, and she started thinking she didn't really love the idea of hunting down any more of them. Though Gangrene Benji was seeming dirty enough that she was still willing to scrap with him. So Ava attacks Gangrene Benji, frees Nijha, and together they both take down the grassy galoot. Nijha wasn't trying to play Xantos' game at all, so she just let Ava take the guy in as her second. Then, when she did, instead of going after a third mark, Ava turned herself in.
Wait, what? How does that work? She got herself locked up to be free from being locked up?
Not exactly. See, the call to arms was to get 3 anti-heroes off the streets for the clean slate. So Ava gets 2 of them turned in, then says she'll give up the gem that grants her powers if she can count as her own third mark. With the gem locked away, she couldn't go back to being a vigilante even if she wanted to. But like I said earlier, she was kinda looking to hang it all up anyway. Having her legs not working again would be a bit of a bummer, but at least she'd finally be free from the life and not need to turn anyone else in. And the idea had all come from her having that little mid-battle heart-to-heart with Nijha.
That's pretty surprising considering these folks all sounded fairly morally grey, but kinda nice at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, well, sometimes clarity can hit you out of nowhere. And like Ram Dass said, when you're perceiving someone with your soul, other people look like souls. So it makes sense she'd want to stop going after other folks who might have been led into the anti-hero life through a similarly dark past to herself.
Wow. I was expecting you to have some goofy line, but that was kind of beautiful and profound. Not even sure what to do with that now.
Yeah, sorry, a little off-brand of an ending for me, but if you want, I can get us back on a goofy track by ripping a huge fart or something.
No, thanks.
You sure? 'Cause those beans is getting to me, and the mass of the celestial gas giant building up in my colon can't stand to expand much more. Then get out of car, Benjamin. We have not moved in 10 minutes anyhow. Alright, I'm getting out.
Thank you. Oi, Vasilia, is you as tempted as I am to use our watches to teleport home and ditch Benny?
Depends on how bad he smells when he steps back inside vehicle.
Fair. Yeah, I'm on board. Oh, jeez!
Ah, that's better. So I told him to call it I Snack 2.0. I thought, Benny, where'd you go? I'm back, I'm here. Okay, let's go. So then I thought it'd be funny. Benny saying stuff. Benny's right here, Benny's voice. Benny. If you enjoyed this and you haven't seen Friday's video yet, I'd recommend checking it out, Mythological Creatures as Anti-Heroes. Or if you just want more out of this banter trio, you could check out the famous cartoon characters as Mech Armor's community redraw. As I said at the beginning, the next community redraw is currently up for a vote if you want to vote on it, and huge thank you to everyone who participated in this one, specifically thank you to the people who were chosen. Gemma T and Luke R. Plays, Swan Orange and Caleb Scott, Evan Doodler and Sketch Ninja, Chaotic Universal 99, and Jonathan Santizo. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is an ending note similar to stuff I've probably said recently, but I read this quote that I really liked the phrasing of. The mirror will never smile before you do.
Reality will never shift until you do. Waiting for the world to change before you make a move is like expecting the mirror to smile before you do. Your outer world reflects your inner world. I hope that's a helpful or inspiring reminder. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.